Now, looking at the global commons landscape, who actually is involved in building this? A bunch of us in the community have been looking at how we actually map the commons landscape and who is involved and who should really be involved in this movement. So if we look at the communication process as a process of inputting data, a process by which that data is edited and refined, and then an output process, traditionally the publishing process. Now, in the commons field, we have, in the input field, we have open infrastructure. So what is the infrastructure that's required in order to free up this input process? In process, we have peer production. And in output, we have open access. So open access to all those materials that have been refined by a community and then published. Now, this is just a couple of the kinds of concepts that people are working on, and there are many. In fact, I think I just, as I was doing research for this, found out that there's even an open salad community. I must find out more about that, but open salad, I think, is a salad bar where you can choose things. So the field is really growing, and as Valia says, it's long been in the shadows, but really is on the rise. Now, the theory of the commons is that if you get all of these stages right, if you get them right, if you open up all of these stages of the communication process, you will have this incredible burgeoning of innovation within a particular community. But what I want to say today is that I think there are two major problems that us as a community really need to deal with. The first is the question, and that is, are we really trying to develop global solutions to global problems? And the second is focusing on access rather than participation really the best outreach for the commons? First, are we really trying to develop global solutions? Now, let's take a look at the world. This is the world from Global Mapper, awesome project, must look at it. worldmapper.org. This is the relative number of internet users. So there you can see a very skinny Africa and relatively skinny Global South. Eastern Europe is pretty skinny and pretty fat in the north. This is from 2002. Let's have a look at this one. Cellular mobile phone subscribers. That's also from 2002. Now, I actually would have thought that this was much higher. The numbers would have been much higher in the south. But there again, not much of a difference, but obviously a lot more users. Now look at this one. Royalty fees. This is obviously the amount of money that's paid to copyright holders and their managers and institutions. Very skinny. In fact, I can't really see much of the global south there. Let's look at this problem again. What problems are we really trying to solve here today? Let's take an example. Now, Creative Commons. Creative Commons is trying to solve a very important problem. The problem was initiated with the rise of the internet. And this problem was that in traditional fora, in traditional ways of publishing, a copy, copies triggered copyright law. So when you made a copy, this triggered the law. And the great thing about it then, although there are many problems with it, was that there were only a few people who actually engaged in copying, so it was very easy to regulate. Publishers, in other words. But the whole premise behind Creative Commons is that in the digital world, every use so there really needs to be some kind of mechanism for us being able to recognize the incredible potential of the internet by enabling us to regulate it in some way. Now, let's look at the problem in terms of its solution and its reach. There are an incredible number of Creative Commons projects, country projects around the world. Mostly because people really recognized that here was an organization that was really responding positively to part of a problem that has been in existence for a long time, and really respond positively to the fact that the internet has so much potential that we really need to respond to that potential. But again, the problem that Creative Commons in particular is trying to solve is really reflective of internet use in those countries. So here we have the blue parts of the world, which are still unported. And really, we still don't really have a good idea of how we're going to bring along the rest of the world. I think this is because the global challenge is not right now only about how to regulate copies on the internet. The global challenge is how to regulate intellectual property in a way that enables local development. Second question. Is focusing on access rather than participation really the best outreach for the commons? Now, often when we start to look at how to reach out to those countries that aren't engaged in this movement, we think, well, why don't we just give them access to all this great open and free content? But the question I ask today is that really the right solution to this problem? Let's look at another amazing global organization, Wikipedia. Now, in the dark blue, you can see chapters that have already been established. And in the light blue, that's chapters in discussion. And the green, in fact, I've forgotten, I think the green is chapters in discussion, and the blue, in fact, I have no idea, I've forgotten. But the point here is to look at those areas that haven't been locally translated. This isn't just an example of what hasn't been translated. This is actually national chapters that are participating actively in developing new Wikipedia projects. Now, often the solution to the lack of participation in Wikipedia in countries around the world is to give people access to CD-ROMs, because obviously the internet is not available in a lot of parts of the world, or it's really slow. So why don't we give access to Wikipedia? Another example is of open educational resource flows. Now, there's no real data on this that I know of, but it's quite interesting to see how there is a real lack of participation, of active participation by the Global South in actively creating open educational resources, and a huge and rapidly growing movement in the North to open up open educational resources and textbooks. So these are the problems. What are the solutions? Now, we're having a very critical think within our own organization about how we really address this problem. Because it's really a problem that all of us who claim to be global organizations really need to start looking at very seriously if we want to continue calling ourselves global organizations. And this is what we really believe, that we as an organization will not solve these problems on our own. That what we really need is a diverse global network of actors who have a shared vision about what the problems are, what the global problems are, and what the global solutions might be. To come together and to try and address these global challenges together. Now, some of these actors, in fact, everyone sitting in this room here today and in past summits has the potential and all the knowledge to actually solve these problems. What we need is to really diversify this group, to invite others to participate in answering and trying to answer these questions. Now, this is part of what our vision is. We haven't really worked out how we're going to get to that vision. So, this summit is really trying to start addressing these problems. We have 5 different tribes, 5 different communities of people that come together at this annual event to try and look at what these problems are and how we can start looking at how we need to solve them and who we need to bring into the discussion. We have people from the education community, the business community, the publishing community, the video community, and research. And these are echoed in both the English and the Japanese tracks. Some of the outcomes that we really want to look towards achieving are, first of all, what are the problems in the world that we're trying to address, and how the Commons tries to achieves in addressing these problems. So what are the actual category, what classifies or quantifies a commons-based project that we can use and take out, and what are those characteristics that we can use to apply to these problems, solving these problems. The second is, what standards are there for what constitutes open in our community? So this, I think, is one of the most challenging and most pressing challenges for the Commons movement, and that is, how do we tell other people outside of this room what we're about? How do we translate it for people who aren't sitting here? I don't think we've done it. I think there's a lot of people that still have no idea of what we're really trying to do here. So what we have to start doing is getting really practical, really active, and start taking the step and say that this is what we're trying to do, and this is how you do it. It doesn't mean that it's the final version, but it means that we're actually taking a step forward and we're telling people in a way that they understand and how to get involved. The third outcome that we're trying to look towards in the summit is how these standards, how this first version of these standards can be taken forward in ways that are self-organizing, where decisions are made by rough consensus rather than hackling over small details, where there's willing participants, and where there's open architecture in order to get others involved who aren't here again in this process. Now, the whole idea behind this came from the environmental movement, because the environmental movement has really started tackling these issues of how do I practically explain to people who aren't necessarily directly involved in this movement how they can actually do things sustainably. Tom Chance, who isn't here today because of sustainability reasons, when I asked him, how can we make the summit more sustainable? We have a long way to go. I mean, I always wanted to make the summit more sustainable, and I was really, I believe in conservation, and I really believe that we need to find solutions to these problems, but I had absolutely no idea where to start. He sent me this checklist, and it was divided into different categories: 0 carbon, 0 waste, and so on. And it was the easiest thing in the world, because we could actually check off what we had done and what we still needed to do. So this how-to on openness, or this checklist on openness, really starts to get us thinking on how we can practically implement the things that we find very easy and very simple to understand, but are really critical for other people getting involved. So that's part of the thing that we're all going to be working towards in our different tribes, along with a lot of other outcomes that each tribe will set itself. It's really important that the tribes get to do this on their own, because each sector will have a different way of expressing these. Now, this event has been put together by an incredible bunch of people who have really done a great service this year. Everyone's been asking me why I look so calm, and it's because of these people. I'm not doing anything except speaking here today. So this event, as you heard last night, is a partnership between iCommons and Digital Garage, who are incredible partners and supporters of our work, and also major sponsors. Creative Commons Japan, who have been incredible and are going to put together an amazing program for these few days, and our wonderful and incredible hosts, the city of Sapporo. In terms of sponsors, a lot of us wouldn't be here today if it weren't for these incredible people who are helping us to put this event together, and have been really great in understanding our need for less advertising, and really just committed to supporting all of you, actually, all the volunteers that are trying to build this movement. Incredible, this year we have Wyatt and Al Jazeera, and Mohammed will be speaking to you a bit later this morning about Al Jazeera's interest in this movement. We have another bunch of incredible volunteers. If you haven't already seen these exhibitions, please go and have a look. They're really incredible. Live drawing isn't so much of an exhibition as a participatory artistic experience and creative experience by the Sapporo artists and residents, by our wonderful friends at Loftwork and the city of Sapporo. We have a Global Lives installation, which really shows us what kinds of contexts we're living in around the world and how different those are. And finally, the CC China photo exhibition, which is also really incredible, and we really thank all those people. Friends of the iSummit, so all of these people have very kindly agreed to express to their own communities about what is actually happening and what happens in these next 3 days. People from the blogger team, so all these volunteers will be blogging the different summits, the wonderful videographer team, the media team, Donatella, David Orban from Second Life is doing a wonderful job, and the great facilitators who will be taking you through a very different kind of summit this year for a lot of these tracks, which is much more open for everyone to participate in. Finally, the members of the Sapporo Executive Committee, who we are really grateful to. They've been working basically the entire year on really talking these issues through, and I spoke about it last night, but this is not just an event, this is not just a background to an event. It's really the result of a whole year of great advocacy work, wonderful work by the city and by the Tokyo team, who have been spreading the word about free culture and the commons throughout Japan and with their Asian partners. In particular, Mr. Akida, Mr. Ishii, Mr. Kubo, Mr. Kawashima, and Mr. Kojima from the Sapporo Executive Committee. Thank you very much. Finally, wait for it to clap for yourself. I know that it's not easy for everyone, easier for some, but not easy for everyone to be at this event. I cannot tell you how appreciative we are that you have taken your time, your money, your energy to be here today. There's only one rule for the summit, and that's a rule that the open space movement talks about, and it's the law of 2 feet. And that means that you've spent a lot of time and energy and money to get here. And what we really want you to do is to make the most of your time here. Speak to people that you don't know. Make sure, I think we'll have a competition actually. See who can introduce themselves and meet every single person at this event. Really try and make this an amazing opportunity, a life-changing opportunity, which it is every single year. And I have absolute faith that this year it will be even greater, and that we will come together as a group and reach out in a way that we have never done. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.